My name is Emily Carter. I'm 30 years old, and for most of my life, I felt invisible. Growing up in a quiet suburban town, I was always the shadow in my own family. My younger brother, Ryan, was the golden child, adored and praised for even the smallest things. If he brought home an average report card or completed a minor task, it was celebrated as if he'd moved mountains. Me, I could ace tests, win competitions, or take care of the house without complaint, and it would be brushed off as what's expected. My parents were never cruel outright, but their favoritism was unmistakable. When something went wrong, a broken vase, a missed appointment, even Ryan's mistakes, I was the one who took the blame. "Why did you keep an eye on him?" Or "Emily, you should have known better," became so familiar they might as well have been carved into stone. The constant unfairness chipped away at me year after year, until I began to believe my worth was measured only by how much I could endure. By the time I turned 18, I knew I had to leave. I poured everything I had into earning scholarships and walked out the door without looking back. It wasn't easy, but I built a life that felt like mine. A fulfilling career, a cozy apartment, and a small circle of friends who saw me, really saw me, for who I was. For the first time, there was no blame. No guilt. Just a life where I finally mattered. Emily Carter's childhood was a masterclass in invisibility. In a family where love felt like a currency distributed unevenly, she quickly learned that her role was not to thrive but to endure. Her parents, Margaret and Charles, were unremarkable people to the outside world, yet within the walls of their suburban home, they carved Emily into someone who would spend decades trying to believe she mattered. Everything changed when Ryan was born. Emily was 5 when her younger brother arrived, and from the moment he entered the world, the balance of their family shifted. Ryan was the golden child, the apple of their parents' eyes. His crayon scribbles on the fridge earned him cheers and proud phone calls. A single goal in a soccer game was a cause for celebration. Meanwhile, Emily's straight A's, her spotless chore record, her quiet victories, they all disappeared into the void of parental indifference. "Why can't you be more like Ryan?" her mother would sigh whenever Emily misstepped, forgot the trash, raised her voice, existed a little too loudly. If Ryan broke a lamp or let the dog escape, it was Emily who bore the blame. "You're older. You should have known better." The words sunk deep, a refrain she carried into adolescence. Slowly, guilt and responsibility molded her into someone who never asked for more, convinced her worth lay in how much she could shoulder. By the time Emily was 18, resentment simmered in her chest, but guilt always choked it down. How could she blame Ryan when he was so charming, so easy to love? Blissfully unaware of the pedestal their parents had placed him on, he floated through life without ever needing to fight for his place. Emily, on the other hand, learned to survive in the shadows. When she left for college, she took little more than a suitcase and a scholarship, escaping the suffocating expectations of her childhood. Her parents didn't stop her, they seemed almost relieved. If they felt her absence, they never said so. Years passed, and Emily built herself piece by piece. Now at 30, she lived a life of quiet strength. A small, beautiful apartment she paid for herself, a steady job she was proud of, and friends who saw her worth in ways her family never had. It wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. For the first time, she felt free, free from blame, free from comparison, free from the weight of being invisible. Then the phone rang. The number flashed on the screen, familiar but foreign. For a moment, Emily considered ignoring it, but curiosity, or perhaps a lingering hope, made her pick up. "Emily?" Her mother's voice crackled through the line, thin and uncertain, like she was testing the name after all these years. "It's about your brother." Emily's stomach sank. Of course, it was about Ryan. It was always about Ryan. "What happened?" she asked, though a part of her already knew she wouldn't like the answer. "He's struggling," Margaret said carefully, as though choosing each word would soften the blow. "He lost his job, and he's behind on rent. They'll be evicted soon if someone doesn't step in." Someone. That someone, as always, was Emily. "We thought maybe you could help him out," her mother continued, a casual edge to her tone that didn't quite mask the expectation beneath. "You're doing well, aren't you? You've got a good job, a nice place. It's not like you can't afford it." Emily felt her grip tighten on the phone. Years of silence, years of being overlooked and dismissed, only to be contacted now because Ryan needed saving. Because she was the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who was always expected to clean up the mess. Why can't he ask for help from you? Emily's voice came out sharper than intended, but she didn't pull it back. We've done all we can, Margaret replied with a sigh, a sound that dragged Emily back to her childhood in an instant. He's your brother, Emily. Family helps family. Family. The word hit her like a stone to the chest. Where was that sense of family when she needed it? Where had their loyalty been when she walked out the door with nothing but a scholarship and desperation to escape? Emily closed her eyes, her pulse quickening as anger flared, an anger she had buried for too long. You didn't help me when I needed it, she said, her voice low but steady. Emily, Margaret's tone was softer now, almost pleading. That was a long time ago. You've always been so strong. Ryan's not like you. The words twisted something inside her. Once again, her strength was used as a reason to bear more weight. Once again, Ryan's weakness was an excuse. For years, Emily had carried the blame, the guilt, the silence. But now, standing in her small apartment, she realized something she hadn't before. She had a choice. She didn't have to fall back into their pattern, didn't have to pick up the pieces they dropped at her feet. Emily? Her mother prodded gently, a familiar nudge toward compliance. Emily took a deep breath, her grip on the phone loosening. She thought of everything she had built, every quiet moment of peace she had earned. For once, she could put herself first. She had the power to say no. Emily sat on the edge of her couch, the phone still clutched in her hand long after the call had ended. Her mother's words echoed like a haunting refrain. He's your brother. Family helps family. Guilt and anger tangled within her, two opposing forces wrestling for control. Guilt was familiar, like an old sweater she'd worn threadbare. It whispered insidiously, reminding her of every time she'd been told she wasn't good enough. Every accusation of selfishness for simply wanting to be seen. He's struggling, Emily. Don't you care? But then there was the anger. A fire that had smoldered quietly for years now flared to life, searing away the lies she'd been taught to believe. Where had this concern been when she was a child? Where was this so-called family when she left at 18 with nothing but a suitcase and a desperate need to escape? Where was their compassion then? She shot to her feet, pacing the small living room as her thoughts churned. Images of Ryan swam in her mind, Ryan, the golden child, whose smile alone had been enough to earn their parents' praise. Ryan, who had always been cushioned, protected, adored. Meanwhile, Emily had been the scapegoat, the responsible one, the afterthought, and now, nothing had changed. Ryan was in trouble, and it was her they expected to save him. You're doing well, her mother had said, as though success was a crime for which Emily now had to pay. Her stomach twisted. A part of her still longed for their approval, a dangerous ache she thought she'd buried long ago. If she refused, would they finally abandon her for good? Would they call her selfish, ungrateful, a bad sister? But another voice, stronger now, rose up inside her, the voice of the woman who had clawed her way to independence. She had worked for this life. She had endured sleepless nights, draining jobs, and years of solitude to carve out a space where she could finally breathe. And now, when she had found peace, they wanted to pull her back into the chaos. Emily sank back onto the couch, her hands trembling. She could see the manipulation for what it was, clear as day, yet its familiarity still threatened to swallow her whole. He's your brother. You're doing fine, Emily. Family helps family. Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. A new text lit up the screen. Margaret, Ryan is desperate, Emily. He doesn't deserve this. Please do the right thing. The words hit like a punch to the gut. He doesn't deserve this. Did she deserve the years of blame? The years of neglect? Did she deserve to be invisible until they needed something from her? Tears stung her eyes as a surge of clarity rose through the anger. This was not her burden to carry, not anymore. Emily wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater, her breath steadying. She picked up her phone, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The years of silence, guilt, and disappointment weighed heavy on her shoulders. But this time, she wouldn't let it crush her. She typed slowly, each word deliberate. Emily, I'm sorry Ryan is struggling, but I can't help him. I've worked hard to build a life for myself, and I won't jeopardize that. I hope he finds a way to get back on his feet, but this is not my responsibility. Her thumb lingered over the send button, but only for a moment. With a deep breath, she pressed it. The response was instant. Margaret, I can't believe you would turn your back on your family like this. Emily stared at the screen, but the words no longer had power over her. She placed the phone face down on the coffee table, the silence in the room feeling oddly soothing. The guilt was still there, lingering in the shadows, but it was quieter now, smaller, easier to ignore. Standing, Emily walked to the window and gazed up at the city below. The small apartment she had fought for, the job she loved, the life she had carved out for herself. It was all hers. Every inch of it was hard-won, and no one had the right to take it from her. A small, proud smile curled her lips as she grabbed her coat and keys. She felt lighter than she had in years, as though the chains of her past had finally fallen away. The phone buzzed again behind her, but she didn't turn back. Margaret's disappointment, Ryan's anger, her father's silence, they could all live in the past where they belonged. Outside, the world stretched out before her, bright and full of possibilities she could finally see. Emily sat at her kitchen table, her phone buzzing endlessly with calls and messages. Each vibration felt like a demand, another tug at the chain she had spent years breaking. Her mother's guilt-laden texts, her father's silence, and even Ryan's half-hearted apology. Asterisk, I didn't ask them to call you, but I really need this, M. Asterisk all wove together into the same suffocating web, trying to ensnare her again. But Emily was done being trapped. She stared at the phone, her heart pounding. The old guilt whispered its familiar refrain, family helps family. It accused her of being selfish, cruel, ungrateful. But beneath it, something stronger stirred, anger. Anger at the years of blame, invisibility, and being treated like a convenient afterthought. Anger at a family that only remembered her when they needed saving. Without letting herself hesitate, she picked up the phone and dialed. Margaret answered on the second ring, her voice sharp with impatience. Emily. Finally. Ryan. Stop. Emily's tone was calm, but the steel in it was unmistakable. I need to say something, and I need you to listen. There was a pause. What's gotten into you? Margaret asked, already defensive. Emily took a steadying breath. I'm not helping Ryan. I'm not giving him money. I've worked too hard to build a life I'm proud of, and I won't let you, or anyone else, make me feel guilty for protecting it. Emily, he's your brother. No, Emily interrupted, her voice unwavering. It's not my responsibility. None of this is. I spent my entire childhood being blamed for things that weren't my fault, while Ryan was handed everything. Now, when he's facing the consequences of his own choices, you expect me to fix it. I won't. Margaret sputtered on the other end, clearly caught off guard. We're family, Emily. You don't turn your back on family. Emily felt the words hit, but they didn't hurt like they once would have. You turned your back on me a long time ago, she replied, her voice quiet but resolute. You ignored me, you blamed me, you made me feel invisible. And now, when it's convenient, you want me to swoop in and save the day. I'm done being that person for you. The silence on the other end was deafening. Margaret's voice finally returned, laced with bitterness. I can't believe how selfish you've become. Emily didn't flinch. What once would have shattered her now felt weightless. If standing up for myself makes me selfish, then so be it. I deserve better than this. She didn't wait for her mother's response. Goodbye, Mom, she said softly, and hung up. For a long moment, Emily sat still, the phone silent in her hands. The old guilt tried to claw its way back, but it was quieter now, like a shadow retreating in the light. Pride thumped steady in her chest, strong, undeniable. She set the phone down and looked around her apartment. It was small but beautiful, the result of years of hard work, sacrifice, and courage. It was hers. For so long, she had feared that standing up for herself would mean losing her family forever. But now she understood. She had lost them a long time ago. What she gained today, though, was something far more valuable herself. Emily stood and walked to the window, where sunlight streamed in, warming her face. Outside, the world stretched wide and bright, broomy with possibilities she could finally see. She smiled, her shoulders light, her breath easy. The days that followed felt lighter, as though Emily had shrugged off a heavy coat she didn't realize she'd been carrying for years. At first, the silence from her family was deafening, like an echo in an empty room, but soon it became liberating. No more guilt-laden calls. No more expectations to shoulder burdens that weren't hers to bear. For the first time, her life felt like it belonged to her. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Emily sat in her favorite cafe, tucked into a cozy corner table with her closest friends, people who loved her not for what she could do for them, but simply for who she was. The cafe buzzed with laughter and soft conversation, the air rich with the scent of fresh coffee and warm pastries. Sophia, her oldest friend, leaned forward with a teasing grin. "You look different lately, Hem. Happier. Like you're glowing." Emily smiled over her latte, the warmth of the cup grounding her. "Maybe I finally am." Mike, Sophia's boyfriend and a steady cheerleader in Emily's life, chimed in with a nod. "Whatever it is, keep doing it. You've been killing it at work, and you actually seem like you're enjoying yourself these days." "I am," Emily admitted softly, the truth settling in her chest like a gentle heartbeat. She was. She was enjoying herself. She had drawn a line in the sand, and instead of the world collapsing, it had opened up, brighter and lighter than before. That evening, Emily walked home through the park, the golden light of sunset stretching across the grass like a warm embrace. Families dotted the landscape, kids running, parents laughing, dogs chasing frisbees, and for the first time, Emily felt like a quiet observer in a world that didn't demand anything from her. She paused beside a small pond, watching the ripples dance across the water's surface. Her reflection wavered, but she didn't mind. It was a reflection she could finally recognize, one that spoke of growth, resilience, and freedom. She thought of the little girl she used to be, the one who tried so hard to be seen, to be good enough, to earn love that should have been unconditional. That girl had been brave, even when no one noticed. Emily closed her eyes and thanked her younger self for holding on, for keeping her heart alive through all the silence. When she reached her apartment, the space welcomed her like an old friend. Soft music played from the speakers. Books were stacked on the coffee table. A half-finished painting waited on the easel by the window, and the last orange streaks of sunlight filtered through the glass. Kicking off her shoes, Emily grabbed a paintbrush and stepped in front of the canvas. The colors poured freely onto the surface, strokes bold and alive, as if they, too, were celebrating this life she had fought for. The sun finally dipped below the horizon as Emily stepped back to admire her work. The painting wasn't perfect, but it was hers, just like her life. A life shaped by struggle, forged in resilience, and made beautiful by her choice to keep going. She didn't need her family's approval. She didn't need to fix their problems to feel worthy. She didn't need anyone to tell her she was enough. Because she was. Emily smiled, a quiet and knowing smile. For the first time in her life, she was free, truly free. And that, she realized, was more than enough.